The Sheliak Dominion's millennia-long reign of galactic supremacy shattered the moment Captain Jeffrey Roberts and his crew from the United Earth starship Defiant landed on their homeworld. For thousands of years, the Sheliak had conquered and assimilated countless alien races, their technological prowess and intellectual superiority unchallenged across thousands of star systems. Until now. Alarms blared throughout the Sheliak capital as the human vessel effortlessly breached their most advanced defensive systems. The Sire Father, venerable leader of the Sheliak High Council, watched in disbelief as the Earth ship gracefully touched down on the planet's surface. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. The answer came swiftly and unexpectedly. Captain Roberts, a tall, charismatic figure with piercing blue eyes, strode confidently from his ship, flanked by a diverse team of human experts. Instead of weapons, they carried tools and scientific instruments unfamiliar to the Sheliak observers. As the High Council convened an emergency session, reports flooded in from across the planet. The humans, far from being the simple creatures the Sheliak had initially dismissed them as, were demonstrating remarkable problem-solving abilities. In mere hours, they had unraveled scientific conundrums that had puzzled Sheliak researchers for generations. Sire Father watched, fascinated, as Captain Roberts and his team tackled a particularly vexing issue with the planet's atmospheric regulators. The humans' approach was unorthodox, even chaotic by Sheliak standards, yet undeniably effective. Within moments, they had not only repaired the malfunctioning system, but improved its efficiency by an order of magnitude. The implications were staggering. If these humans could so easily surpass Sheliak technology, what other capabilities might they possess? The thought sent ripples of unease through the assembled council members. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice cutting through the din of panicked discussion. "We stand at a crossroads. For too long, we have rested on the laurels of our perceived superiority. These humans have shown us otherwise. We must adapt, or we will perish." His words were met with fierce opposition from traditionalist factions. Shouts of "conquer them" and "destroy the threat" echoed through the chamber. But Sire Father held firm, his gaze locked on the holographic display, showing Captain Roberts continuing his work outside. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant, Captain Roberts was formulating his own strategy. He recognized the unique opportunity presented by the Sheliak's shock and awe at human capabilities. With Earth's position in the galaxy far from secure, an alliance with this vast empire could be game-changing. "Open a channel to the Sheliak leadership," he ordered his communications officer. "It's time we began official diplomatic talks." As the two leaders prepared to face each other across the negotiating table, tensions simmered on both sides. Hardliners among the humans and Sheliak alike pushed for aggressive action, seeing the other as a threat to be eliminated. Roberts and Sire Father found themselves walking a razor's edge, balancing the desire for peace and cooperation against the fear and mistrust of their respective peoples. The fate of two species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now hung in the balance. Would this encounter lead to a new era of interstellar alliance, or spark a devastating war that could reshape the cosmos? As Captain Roberts straightened his uniform and prepared to meet with Sire Father, he knew that every word, every action in the coming hours would be crucial. The humans had shown the galaxy they were a force to be reckoned with. Now they had to prove they could be allies as well as conquerors. As Captain Roberts prepared to meet with Sire Father, a bold idea formed in his mind. He knew that simply talking wouldn't be enough to bridge the vast cultural divide between humans and Sheliak. As he entered the Grand Council chamber, its towering crystalline walls reflecting the ambient light, he made his proposal. "Esteemed Sire Father, members of the High Council," Roberts began, his voice steady and clear, "I propose a cultural exchange program between our peoples. Let us learn from each other, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals seeking mutual understanding." Sire Father's compound eyes flickered, a sign of intense contemplation among the Sheliak. After a moment of heavy silence, he responded, "An intriguing proposition, Captain. But how can we trust that this is not a ploy to gather intelligence on our weaknesses?" Roberts smiled, his blue eyes gleaming with sincerity. "Trust is built through action, not words. We'll send our best and brightest to your world, and in return, we welcome Sheliak scholars to Earth. Complete transparency, monitored by both sides. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of clicking mandibles and vibrating antennae as the Sheliak debated among themselves. Finally, Sirefather raised a limb for silence. We accept your proposal, Captain Roberts. Let this exchange be the first step towards a new era of interstellar cooperation. Within weeks, the exchange program was underway. Dr. Marcus Chen, Earth's leading xenobiologist, led the human contingent to the Sheliak homeworld. As their shuttle descended through the planet's violet atmosphere, Chen marveled at the alien landscape below. Vast crystal forests and shimmering energy fields unlike anything on Earth. Upon landing, Chen and his team were greeted by a group of Sheliak scientists, their exoskeletons glistening in the planet's twin suns. One Sheliak stepped forward, introducing herself as Krell, their liaison. Meanwhile, on Earth, a group of Sheliak scholars led by the young researcher Zara arrived at the United Earth Science Academy in Geneva. As they emerged from their ship, Zara's sensory appendages twitched with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The Sheliak team was immediately struck by Earth's vibrant atmosphere. The cacophony of sounds, the multitude of colors, and the unpredictable weather patterns were overwhelming to their highly structured minds. As the exchange progressed, both groups made remarkable discoveries. On Sheliacus Prime, Dr. Chen and his team delved into the intricacies of Sheliak technology. They were particularly fascinated by the Sheliak's advanced energy manipulation techniques. Krell tilted her head, a gesture of curiosity. You still struggle with energy production? We mastered this technique millennia ago. Chen smiled ruefully. We have much to learn from you, but perhaps we can offer fresh perspectives in return. Indeed, the Sheliak were discovering that humans had much to teach them. On Earth, Zara and her team were continually surprised by human creativity and emotional depth. During a visit to the Louvre in Paris, Zara stood transfixed before Van Gogh's Starry Night. The swirling colors and passionate brushstrokes stirred something within her that she couldn't quite comprehend. This is art? She asked her human guide, her translator struggling to convey the complexity of her emotions. Yes, the guide replied. It's a human expression of beauty, emotion, and the artist's unique vision of the world. Zara's antennae quivered. We have nothing like this in Sheliak culture. Our focus has always been on logic and efficiency. But this makes me feel in ways I cannot explain. As the exchange continued, both species made great strides in understanding each other. However, not everyone was pleased with this newfound cooperation. On Sheliacus Prime, a group of Sheliak extremists viewed the human presence as a threat to their way of life. In secret meetings held in the crystal forests, they plotted to end the alliance. These humans are a cancer, hissed Vex, the leader of the extremist faction. They will corrupt our pure society with their chaos and emotions. We must act now. Their actions did not go unnoticed. Captain Roberts, still stationed near Sheliacus Prime, received an urgent transmission from Earth. A human outpost in a neutral star system had been attacked, apparently by Sheliak forces. As tensions rose to a boiling point, Roberts suspected foul play. He reached out to Krell, the Sheliak security officer who had been working closely with the human team. Something doesn't add up, Krell, Roberts explained in a secure communication. This attack goes against everything we've worked for. I need your help to uncover the truth. Krell agreed, her own suspicions aroused by recent anomalies in the planetary defense grid. Together, they launched a covert investigation, racing against time to prevent an interstellar war. As they delved deeper into the mystery, Roberts and Krell uncovered evidence of the extremist plot. But before they could act on this information, alarms blared throughout the Sheliak capital. The main planetary defense grid had gone offline, leaving the planet vulnerable. And on the long-range scanners, a massive fleet of unknown origin was approaching rapidly. Sirefather's voice crackled over the emergency broadcast system. Attention all citizens. We are under attack by the Vorax. Our defenses are compromised. This is not a drill. In the chaos that followed, Captain Roberts faced a crucial decision. The human fleet had the power to turn the tide of battle, but some Earth leaders saw this as an opportunity to let the Sheliak fall, eliminating a potential future threat. Roberts stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as the first wave of Vorax ships entered the Sheliak system. He took a deep breath, his decision made. As the human fleet mobilized, racing towards the embattled Sheliak homeworld, the fate of two species hung in the balance. The true test of the human-Sheliak alliance was about to begin. The true test of the human-Sheliak alliance was about to unfold in the crucible of battle. As the Vorax fleet entered the system, Captain Roberts sprang into action. "All ships, form up on me. We're going to show these Vorax what humanity is made of." The human fleet surged forward, their ships gleaming in the light of Sheliakus Prime's twin suns. The Vorax vessels, vast and menacing, loomed ahead. For a moment, the two fleets hung in space, a tableau of impending conflict. Human ships darted and weaved through the Vorax formation with startling agility. The UES Defiant led the charge, Roberts at the helm, his hands dancing across the controls with practiced ease. The space around them lit up with weapons fire. Vorax energy beams lanced out, only to be deflected by the humans' advanced shield technology. In return, human ships unleashed salvos of missiles and railgun rounds, punching through Vorax hulls with deadly precision. The human fleet responded as one, breaking formation and reforming into smaller, more mobile strike groups. This unconventional tactic caught the Vorax off guard, their rigid battle lines suddenly facing attacks from multiple vectors. Aboard the Sheliak Command Center, Sirefather watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The human's adaptability in combat was unlike anything he had ever seen. As the battle raged on, a massive Vorax battlecruiser broke through the defensive line, its weapons charging as it bore down on the Sheliak capital city. Alarms blared throughout the command center. Roberts saw the threat immediately. Without hesitation, he made his decision. "This is Captain Roberts. I'm moving to intercept that battlecruiser. All other ships, maintain your positions." The Defiant peeled away from the main battle, engines flaring as it raced to cut off the Vorax ship. Roberts's hands flew over the controls, pushing the ship to its limits. As they closed in, Roberts spotted a debris field left by the earlier fighting. A plan formed in his mind. "Helm, take us into that debris. Nice and easy." The Defiant weaved through the twisted metal and shattered hulls, the Vorax battlecruiser following close behind. Its massive bulk made it less maneuverable, and Roberts used this to his advantage. The Defiant suddenly reversed course, darting past the surprised Vorax ship. As they passed, Roberts gave the order. "Fire everything we've got." A barrage of missiles and energy weapons erupted from the Defiant, catching the Vorax ship's exposed flank. The battlecruiser's shields flared and failed under the assault, its hull buckling as secondary explosions rippled along its length. Sirefather's compound eyes flickered rapidly, a sign of intense emotion. "Patch me through to Captain Roberts," he ordered. Roberts' face appeared on the command center's main screen, smoke and sparks visible behind him on the Defiant's bridge. "Captain," Sirefather began, his translator struggling to convey the depth of his feelings, "your actions have saved countless Sheliak lives. You risked yourself for a people who, until recently, were your adversaries. I am deeply grateful." Roberts nodded solemnly. "We're in this together now, Sirefather. Humanity stands with the Sheliak." Sirefather's mandibles clicked rapidly as he made a decision. "Attention all Sheliak vessels. You are hereby ordered to fully coordinate with our human allies. Share all tactical data and form mixed squadrons. Together, we will repel this Vorax invasion." As the battle continued, the newly strengthened human-Sheliak alliance began to turn the tide. The combined fleet moved with deadly efficiency, human adaptability complementing Sheliak precision. Meanwhile, in a Sheliak laboratory deep beneath the planet's surface, Dr. Marcus Chen worked feverishly alongside his Sheliak counterpart, Zara. They had been analyzing data from the battle when Chen noticed something peculiar. "Look at this energy signature," he said, pointing to a readout. "It's consistent across all Vorax ships. If we could isolate it..." Zara's antennae twitched in excitement. We could potentially track them, even disrupt their systems. The two scientists threw themselves into their work, human intuition and Shellyak methodical analysis working in perfect harmony. After hours of intense effort, they emerged with a prototype device. Captain Roberts, Chen's voice crackled over the comm. We've developed something that could change the course of this battle. We need to get it to the fleet immediately. Roberts didn't hesitate. Do it. I'll inform Sirefather and coordinate production and distribution. As the devices were hastily manufactured and deployed to the Allied fleet, their effect was immediate and dramatic. Vorax ships began to lose maneuverability, their energy signatures disrupted by the human Shellyak technology. The tide of battle had definitively turned. Vorax ships, once so menacing, now floundered in space, easy prey for the coordinated attacks of human and Shellyak vessels. But the Vorax were not defeated yet. As their main fleet faltered, a massive structure emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system. It dwarfed even the largest Vorax battlecruiser, its surface jam-packed with strange, ominous protrusions. All forces, be advised, our analysts have determined this to be a Vorax doomsday weapon. It is capable of rendering our entire planet uninhabitable. We must stop it at all costs. On the bridge of the Defiant, Roberts stared at the looming Vorax weapon, his mind racing. Conventional weapons had little effect on its heavily shielded hull. They needed a new approach, something unexpected. Sirefather, Roberts said, his voice calm despite the dire situation. I have a plan, but it's risky and I'll need your help. As Roberts outlined his daring strategy to board and disable the Vorax weapon from within, Sirefather listened intently. When the human finished speaking, there was a moment of silence. Then, to the shock of his advisors, Sirefather spoke. I will join this mission myself. Protests erupted from the Shellyak High Council, but Sirefather silenced them with a gesture. This alliance was built on mutual trust and sacrifice. I will not ask our human allies to take risks I am unwilling to share. As preparations for the desperate mission began, the massive Vorax weapon continued its ominous approach towards Shellyaku's prime. The fate of two civilizations now rested on the success of this bold gambit. Captain Roberts stood in the hangar bay of the Defiant, surveying the assembled strike team. Humans and Shellyak stood side by side, united in purpose. Dr. Chen and Zara were there, clutching cases of hastily assembled equipment, and at the center of it all stood Sirefather, his exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights. Everyone clear on the plan? Roberts asked, his gaze sweeping over the team. Nods and clicks of affirmation answered him. As they boarded the specially modified stealth shuttle, Roberts took one last look at the Defiant. Then, with a deep breath, he sealed the hatch and took his place at the controls. This is Captain Roberts, he announced over the comm. Strike team is away. May fortune favor the bold. With that, the shuttle detached from the Defiant and accelerated towards the looming Vorax weapon. While behind them, the battle for the fate of the Shellyak homeworld raged on. The stealth shuttle sliced through space, its cloaking technology rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Captain Roberts gripped the controls tightly, his eyes fixed on the looming Vorax weapon station ahead. Approaching the outer defense perimeter, he announced, his voice steady despite the tension. Initiating final approach vector. Sirefather clicked his mandibles, a gesture Roberts had come to recognize as a sign of nervous anticipation. Your piloting skills are impressive, Captain, the Shellyak leader admitted. As they neared the massive structure, its true scale became apparent. The station dwarfed even the largest ships in either the human or Shellyak fleets, its surface jam-packed with weapon emplacements and strange, pulsating nodes of energy. Dr. Chen, Roberts called over his shoulder, any luck penetrating their shields? Zara's antennae twitched as she manipulated holographic displays. We're detecting a fluctuation in their shield matrix. It's slight, but it might be enough for us to slip through. The shuttle banked sharply, diving towards a barely perceptible distortion in the station's energy field. For a heart-stopping moment, the entire craft shuddered violently as it pushed against the barrier. Then, with a lurch that made everyone's stomachs drop, they were through. We're in, Roberts announced, guiding the shuttle towards a cavernous hangar bay. Dr. Chen, Zara, can you jam their internal sensors? The two scientists worked feverishly, their fingers flying over alien interfaces. Done, Chen reported, but it won't last long. We need to move fast. As the shuttle touched down, Roberts turned to address the assembled team. Remember the plan. We find the central control room, neutralize their leadership, and disable this weapon. Failure is not an option. The strike team disembarked swiftly, humans and Sheliak moving with practiced coordination. They had trained for this, but the reality of infiltrating an alien superweapon was far more daunting than any simulation. As they made their way deeper into the station, the architecture became increasingly bizarre. Organic-looking conduits pulsed with strange energies, and gravity seemed to shift unpredictably from one corridor to the next. Without warning, one of the Vorax stopped, its forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. It turned, yellow eyes narrowing as it scanned the corridor. Roberts knew they had seconds before they were discovered. He caught Sirefather's compound gaze and nodded once. In that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. The human and Sheliak leaders burst from cover simultaneously. Roberts rolled forward, coming up with his pistol blazing. Sirefather moved with surprising agility for his bulk, his powerful limbs propelling him into the midst of the startled Vorax. The rest of the strike team joined the fray, and for several chaotic moments, the corridor was filled with the sound of energy weapons and the clash of bodies. When it was over, the Vorax lay still, and the Allied team stood victorious. Impressive, Sirefather clicked, regarding Roberts with new respect. Your species' combat prowess is formidable. Roberts nodded grimly. Let's hope it's enough to see us through this. They pressed on, encountering sporadic resistance as they neared the heart of the station. Chen and Zara worked tirelessly to bypass security systems and decrypt alien data streams, their combined intellects proving a match for even the advanced Vorax technology. Finally, they reached a massive set of doors that could only lead to the central control room. Roberts turned to his team, his expression determined. This is it, he said. Whatever's on the other side of those doors, we face it together. For Earth, for Sheliakus Prime, and for the future of both our peoples. With a nod to Chen and Zara, who stood ready at a nearby access panel, Roberts raised his weapon. Open it. The doors slid apart with a hiss, revealing a vast chamber dominated by a pulsating central core. And there, standing before an array of holographic displays, was a Vorax unlike any they had seen before. Taller, more heavily armored, with a crest of spines that flared menacingly as it turned to face the intruders. I am Krovak, the Vorax commander snarled, its voice a guttural rumble that seemed to resonate through the chamber. You dare to challenge the might of the Vorax Imperium? Roberts stepped forward, his weapon trained on the alien leader. We're here to stop you from destroying an innocent world. Stand down, and we can end this without further bloodshed. Krovak's response was a roar of defiance as it charged, energy crackling around its massive form. The battle for the fate of two civilizations had begun. Sirefather moved in, using his considerable bulk to grapple with Krovak. The two alien leaders locked in a struggle that shook the floor beneath them, a clash of chitinous exoskeleton against reptilian scales. As Roberts circled, looking for an opening, he shouted to Chen and Zara, "Find a way to shut this thing down. We'll keep him busy." The two scientists needed no further encouragement. They raced to the nearest console, their fingers flying over alien interfaces as they sought to unravel the secrets of the Vorax weapon. Meanwhile, the battle raged on. Roberts, drawing on years of hand-to-hand combat training, darted in and out of the fray. He struck at vulnerable points, using Krovak's size against him, always staying just out of reach of those deadly claws. Sirefather, for his part, was a revelation. The Sheliak leader fought with a combination of raw power and surprising agility, his multiple limbs allowing him to maintain his grip on Krovak even as the Vorax thrashed and snarled. Together, human and Sheliak worked in perfect tandem, each anticipating the other's moves as if they had fought side by side for years. It was a dance of survival, a testament to the newfound alliance between their species. Across the chamber, Chen's voice suddenly cut through the chaos. "Captain, we found something!" Roberts ducked under a wild swing from Krovac, using the momentum to roll towards the scientists. "What is it?" As Chen and Zara worked feverishly to initiate the overload sequence, Roberts turned back to the fight. Krovac had managed to break free from Sirefather's grip and was advancing on the Sheliak leader, energy weapon raised. Without hesitation, Roberts sprinted forward. He leaped using Sirefather's broad back as a springboard to launch himself at Krovac. The sudden attack caught the Vorax commander off guard, and Roberts managed to wrench the weapon from its grasp. Landing in a crouch, Roberts spun and fired. The alien weapon pulsed in his hands, sending a bolt of energy that struck Krovac squarely in the chest. The Vorax staggered back, its personal shields flickering and failing. Sirefather seized the moment. With a series of rapid strikes that belied his size, the Sheliak leader battered Krovac's defenses. A final powerful blow sent the Vorax commander crashing to the ground, dazed and defeated. As Roberts moved to secure their fallen foe, Chen's urgent voice rang out. "Captain, we've done it, but there's a problem. Someone needs to stay behind to manually initiate the final sequence." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Sirefather stepped forward, his compound eyes fixed on Roberts. "I will do it. It is my duty to protect my people and to repay the debt we owe to humanity." Roberts shook his head, his mind racing. "No, we didn't come this far to leave anyone behind." His gaze swept the room, taking in the alien technology surrounding them. "There has to be another way. What about the station's teleportation system?" Chen's eyes widened. "It's possible, but risky. We'd have to modify the system on the fly, and the timing would have to be perfect." As Chen and Zara set to work, a distant explosion rocked the station. Roberts activated his comlink. "Strike team, report!" "Vorax reinforcements, sir," came the strained reply. "They've breached our perimeter. We're holding them off, but we can't last long." Roberts turned to Sirefather. "Looks like we'll have to buy our people some time." The Sheliak leader nodded, a gesture he had adopted from his human allies. "Indeed. Shall we show these Vorax the true strength of our alliance?" With a grim smile, Roberts readied his weapon. "Let's do it." As Chen and Zara raced against time to modify the teleportation system, Roberts and Sirefather prepared to make their stand. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, with victory or annihilation only moments away. Roberts and Sirefather stood side by side, weapons at the ready, as the sounds of battle drew closer. Suddenly, Chen's voice cut through the tension. "It's done! We've modified the teleportation system!" "Everyone in!" he shouted, backing into the shuttle as Sirefather provided covering fire. They were in space, the Vorax station rapidly shrinking behind them. Through the view screen, Roberts watched as the massive structure shuddered, then erupted in a blinding flash of light. In the days that followed, the full impact of their actions became clear. The destruction of the Vorax station had dealt a crippling blow to the alien empire's expansion plans. Both Earth and Sheliakus Prime were safe for now. Months passed, and Roberts stood on the bridge of a gleaming new starship, the most advanced vessel ever produced by the human Sheliak Alliance. Admiral's insignia now adorned his uniform, a promotion that came with the responsibility of leading a joint exploration fleet. "Admiral," his XO reported, "all ships report ready for departure." Roberts nodded, his gaze sweeping over the assembled fleet. Each ship represented the best of both species, human ingenuity combined with Sheliak precision. "Very well," he said. "Signal the fleet. We have a galaxy to explore." As the ships engaged their engines, Roberts thought back to the fateful mission that had led to this moment. Dr. Chen and Zara had continued their collaboration, pushing the boundaries of what was possible when human and Sheliak minds worked in concert. Their crowning achievement was the new propulsion system that now powered the fleet, allowing them to cover vast distances in a fraction of the time it once took. The fleet's first major expedition took them to the edges of known space. As they navigated uncharted star systems, Roberts couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in how far they'd come. The mistrust and misunderstandings that had once divided humans and Sheliak seemed like distant memories. It was during a routine sensor sweep of a seemingly unremarkable sector that they made the discovery that would change everything. "Admiral," the science officer called out, her voice tinged with excitement, "we're detecting an anomaly dead ahead." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a massive object floating in the void of space. It was clearly artificial, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "Magnify," Roberts ordered, his curiosity piqued. "Initial scans indicate it's millions of years old," the science officer reported. "The technology, sir, it's unlike anything we've ever seen." Roberts made a quick decision. "Bring us alongside, prepare a team to board and investigate." As they approached the artifact, Roberts felt a familiar mix of anticipation and caution. They were about to step into the unknown, and he knew from experience that such moments could be both wondrous and dangerous. The boarding team, led by Roberts himself, entered the artifact through what appeared to be an airlock. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, filled with technology so advanced it bordered on the miraculous. "Careful," Roberts warned as they explored deeper. "Don't touch anything unless you're absolutely sure it's safe." Despite his caution, Roberts couldn't shake the feeling that they were meant to find this place. Every new discovery seemed to hint at some greater purpose, some message left behind by an ancient civilization. They had just entered what appeared to be a central control room when it happened. A pulse of energy surged through the artifact, temporarily disabling all systems on the flagship. In the confusion that followed, Roberts and his team found themselves teleported back to the ship. As power was restored and systems came back online, Roberts rushed to the bridge. "Report!" he barked. "Sir," his XO responded, looking perplexed. "The artifact, it's gone." Roberts stared at the empty space where the massive structure had been moments ago. "Gone? How is that possible?" Before anyone could respond, the science officer spoke up. "Admiral, you need to see this." On the main screen, a series of complex star charts appeared, along with a set of coordinates. Somehow, in the moment of contact, the artifact had uploaded this information directly into their computer systems. Roberts studied the data, his mind racing with possibilities. These coordinates led to a part of the galaxy they had never explored, far beyond the borders of both human and Sheliak space. He knew what he had to do. This was why they were out here, to push the boundaries of knowledge and explore the unknown. But he also knew the risks involved in venturing so far from home. Roberts opened a channel to Sirefather and Earth's leadership, quickly explaining the situation and seeking their input. After a lengthy discussion, the decision was made. They would follow the coordinates and see where they led. As the fleet prepared for the long journey ahead, Roberts couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something monumental. Whatever lay at the end of those coordinates, he was certain it would change the course of history for both humans and Sheliak. Little did he know just how right he was, or the challenges that awaited them in the uncharted depths of space. As the unknown ships emerged from the gateway, Admiral Jeffrey Roberts felt a surge of adrenaline course through his veins. He barked out orders, his voice steady despite the tension gripping the bridge. The fleet responded with practiced precision, forming a protective barrier around Roberts's flagship. As the scans began, the true scale of the alien ships became apparent. They dwarfed even the largest vessels in the human Sheliak fleet, their sleek, otherworldly designs defying conventional engineering principles. Roberts leaned forward in his chair, eyes fixed on the main view screen. "What are we dealing with here?" he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Before anyone could respond, a blinding flash of energy erupted from the lead alien ship. Roberts instinctively braced for impact, but instead of an attack, the energy coalesced into a massive holographic projection that enveloped the flagship. Within the shimmering field of light, humanoid figures materialized. Their features were eerily familiar yet unmistakably alien, a perfect blend of the known and the unknowable. "Greetings, children of Earth and Sheliakus Prime," a resonant voice echoed through the bridge. "We are the progenitors, the seeders of life throughout this galaxy." A hushed silence fell over the crew as the implications of those words sank in. Roberts stood, straightening his uniform as he addressed the projection. "I am Admiral Jeffrey Roberts of the Human Sheliak Alliance. We come in peace and with open minds." The lead progenitor nodded, a gesture so human it sent a shiver down Roberts' spine. "We are pleased to see our creations working in harmony. It was not our original intent for your species to develop together, but you have proven yourselves adaptable and cooperative." "Indeed," the progenitor confirmed, "it was a test designed to evaluate your species' capacity for problem-solving and collaboration. By activating the gateway, you have demonstrated your readiness to join the greater galactic community." "But be warned," the progenitor cautioned, "a great threat looms on the horizon, one that requires the unity of all sentient species to overcome." Roberts squared his shoulders, recognizing the weight of the moment. "We stand ready to face any challenge. What is the nature of this threat?" The holographic image shifted, displaying a terrifying vision of worlds stripped bare, entire ecosystems devoured by an unstoppable force. "They are called the Devourers," the progenitor explained, "a highly aggressive hive-mind species that consumes all organic matter in its path. We have fought them for millennia, but our efforts alone are no longer enough." Roberts' tactical mind immediately began formulating strategies. He turned to his second-in-command. "Contact Unity Colony. I want Dr. Chen and Zara here immediately. We'll need their expertise to integrate any new technology." As the orders were carried out, Roberts addressed the progenitors once more. "We'll establish a temporary base near the gateway to facilitate our communication and cooperation. In the meantime, I have a proposal." The progenitors listened intently as Roberts outlined his plan for a preemptive strike against the Devourers, utilizing the gateway network to launch a coordinated attack. The ancient beings seemed impressed by the Admiral's strategic thinking. "Your plan has merit," the lead progenitor acknowledged. "We will consider it carefully. In the meantime, we suggest you begin preparations for the conflict ahead." As the holographic projection faded, Roberts turned to his crew. "You heard them. We have work to do." Over the next few weeks, the area around the gateway buzzed with activity. Construction crews worked tirelessly to build advanced defense platforms, incorporating both human Sheliak and progenitor technologies. Roberts oversaw the efforts personally, pushing his people to their limits while maintaining a sense of purpose and unity. Meanwhile, back at Unity Colony, Dr. Marcus Chen and Zara threw themselves into the task of adapting progenitor technology for use by humans and Sheliak. Their lab became a crucible of innovation, yielding significant breakthroughs in energy production, weapon systems, and faster-than-light travel. As they worked side by side, Chen couldn't help but notice the grace and intelligence with which Zara approached each problem. Despite their biological differences, he found himself drawn to her in a way he had never experienced before. Zara's antennae quivered, a sign Chen had learned to associate with strong emotion. "I too have developed feelings beyond our professional relationship, Marcus. Perhaps this is another form of unity our peoples can achieve." Their tentative romance blossomed against the backdrop of frantic preparation and looming danger. On Sheliakus Prime, Sire Father called an emergency session of the High Council. His deep voice resonated through the ancient chamber as he addressed his peers. "Esteemed counselors, the revelations brought to us by the progenitors and the threat of the Devourers require us to reevaluate our entire society. I propose a complete restructuring, breaking down our traditional caste barriers and encouraging innovative thinking among all Sheliak." The proposal was met with mixed reactions, but Sire Father's impassioned argument eventually swayed the council. The Sheliak began the difficult process of reimagining their civilization, all in preparation for the coming conflict. As these changes swept through human and Sheliak space, Roberts received troubling news. Long-range scouts reported signs of Devourer activity much closer to known space than initially believed. The timeline for their preparations had been drastically shortened. Roberts called an emergency meeting with his top advisors, the progenitor representatives, and the newly arrived Dr. Chen and Zara. As they gathered in the command center of the Gateway base, the gravity of the situation took a toll on all present. He turned to Chen and Zara. "What's the status of our technology integration?" Chen stepped forward, his eyes bright with excitement despite the dire circumstances. We've made significant progress, Admiral. The progenitor energy systems have been successfully adapted to our ships, increasing their power output by 300%. Our weapon systems are now capable of penetrating Devourer defenses, based on the data provided. Zara continued, her antennae twitching as she spoke. Additionally, we've improved our FTL capabilities. We can now cover vast distances in a fraction of the time it once took us. Roberts nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Excellent work, both of you. Now, we need to formulate a battle plan. The fate of not just humanity and the Sheliak, but potentially all life in the galaxy, rests on our shoulders. As the group huddled around the holographic display, discussing strategies and contingencies, Roberts felt the weight of command more acutely than ever before. The coming days would test them all to their limits, but he was determined to lead his people, human, Sheliak, and now progenitor alike, to victory against the encroaching darkness of the Devourers. Devourers loomed ever closer. Roberts wasted no time. He immediately called for the formation of a joint war council, bringing together the brightest minds from human, Sheliak, and progenitor societies. The newly constructed Unity Station, a marvel of engineering that orbited near the ancient gateway, became their headquarters. As Roberts strode into the first council meeting, he took in the diverse assembly before him. Humans in crisp uniforms stood shoulder to shoulder with towering Sheliak, their exoskeletons gleaming under the station's lights. The ethereal forms of the progenitors shimmered at the far end of the table, their presence both awe-inspiring and unsettling. "Ladies, gentlemen, and esteemed allies," Roberts began, his voice carrying across the room, "we face an unprecedented threat. The Devourers are advancing faster than we anticipated. It's time we pool our resources and expertise." The air hummed with tension as strategies were debated and plans formulated. Roberts found himself mediating between the methodical approach of the Sheliak and the more intuitive tactics favored by his human officers. The progenitors offered insights that often left both species baffled, requiring careful translation and interpretation. As the council convened daily, progress was made elsewhere. Dr. Marcus Chen and Zara had sequestered themselves in their lab, working tirelessly on adapting progenitor technology. Their efforts paid off in a spectacular fashion. "Admiral!" Chen's excited voice crackled over the comm as Roberts was leaving a particularly grueling council session. "We've done it. You need to see this immediately." "It's a new type of shield," Chen explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "We've integrated progenitor energy manipulation techniques with our existing deflector technology. This shield can withstand the corrosive attacks of the Devourers." Zara's antennae twitched as she responded, "With the combined resources of our species, we can begin outfitting ships within the week." "Make it happen," Roberts ordered, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. As the new shield technology was rolled out, Roberts turned his attention to another critical task. He summoned his most skilled diplomats, both human and Sheliak, to his office. "We need allies," he stated plainly. "I'm dispatching you to every known civilization in our sector. Your mission is to form a galactic coalition against the Devourer threat." The diplomats nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of their task. As they departed on their missions, Roberts knew they faced an uphill battle. Long-standing rivalries and skepticism would not be easily overcome. Weeks passed in a flurry of activity. The station buzzed with purpose as ships were retrofitted, strategies refined, and alliances tentatively forged. Then the news Roberts had been dreading arrived. A team of long-range scouts burst into the War Council chamber, their faces ashen. "Admiral," the lead scout reported, "we've detected a massive Devourer fleet. They're heading straight for the outer colonies of the Sheliak Dominion." A hush fell over the room. Roberts felt the weight of countless lives settle on his shoulders. "How long do we have?" "At their current speed, less than a month." Roberts' mind raced. They weren't ready. Not yet, but they had no choice. "Send out the call," he ordered. "All Allied forces are to mobilize immediately. We make our stand at the gateway." As the Allied fleet assembled, a strange energy permeated the ranks. Humans and Sheliak, once bitter enemies, now worked in perfect harmony, their ships forming intricate defensive patterns in space. The progenitor vessels, vast and incomprehensible, took up positions at key strategic points. It was during a final strategy session that the progenitors revealed a crucial piece of information. The Devourers are drawn to a rare element, their spokesperson explained, their voice resonating directly in the minds of those present. We call it novium. It is essential for their reproduction cycle. Roberts leaned forward, his tactical mind already spinning with possibilities. Can we detect this novium? As the detection equipment was hastily installed across the fleet, Roberts began to formulate a daring plan. He called an emergency session of the War Council. We use the novium as bait, he proposed, his voice steady despite the audacity of his strategy. We plant a large quantity on an uninhabited planet near the gateway. When the Devourers take the bait, we hit them with everything we've got. Sirefather, his imposing form dominating one end of the table, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The risk is great, he rumbled, but so too is the potential reward. The Sheliak Dominion will commit its full strength to this plan. With the plan set in motion, Roberts found himself leading a dangerous mission to the chosen planet. His team, a mix of human and Sheliak special forces, moved with practiced efficiency as they secured the area and began planting the novium deposits. The harsh environment of the planet tested their purpose. Violent storms lashed at them as they worked, and strange, aggressive creatures emerged from hidden burrows to attack. Yet in these dire circumstances, Roberts saw the true strength of their alliance. Humans adapted quickly to the changing conditions, while the Sheliak's precision and strength proved invaluable in repelling the native fauna. As they completed their task and prepared to leave, Roberts took a moment to survey the barren landscape. Soon, this desolate world would become the site of a battle that would determine the fate of entire civilizations. Back on Unity Station, Dr. Chen and Zara made another breakthrough. They had found a way to weaponize novium, creating energy weapons capable of disrupting the Devourer's hive mind communication. This could change everything, Roberts mused as he examined the prototype weapon. If we can disrupt their coordination, we might stand a chance of sowing chaos in their ranks. As the final preparations were made, long-range sensors detected the approach of the Devourer swarm. The Allied fleet took up their positions, a tense silence falling over the communications channels. Roberts stood on the bridge of his flagship, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. The first wave of Devourer ships entered the system, their biomechanical forms a stark contrast to the sleek lines of the Allied vessels. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the swarm might pass by the bait planet. Then, as one, the Devourer fleet changed course, descending upon the world in terrifying numbers. Roberts keyed his comm, broadcasting to the entire fleet. All units, stand by. Wait for my signal. His finger hovered over the control that would spring their trap, knowing that his next order would initiate one of the largest space battles in galactic history. As the Devourers swarmed closer to the planet's surface, Roberts felt the weight of the moment press down upon him. The fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance. Humans, Sheliak, and progenitors stood united, their combined strength about to be tested against a threat beyond imagination. Roberts drew in a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. The moment of truth had arrived. All units, engage! The Allied fleet erupted into action. Human ships darted forward, their newly upgraded engines leaving trails of blue fire. Sheliak vessels moved in perfect formation, their precision a testament to years of military doctrine. The ethereal progenitor ships shimmered as they activated advanced weapon systems beyond human comprehension. The Devourers, caught off guard by the sudden assault, reeled from the initial barrage. Their biomechanical ships, resembling grotesque deep-sea creatures, writhed as energy blasts tore through their ranks. The new shields held firm against the corrosive counterattacks, allowing Allied ships to press their advantage. On the bridge of his flagship, Roberts watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. "Deploy the novium weapons," he ordered. Across the fleet, the fruits of Dr. Chen and Zara's labor came to life. Beams of crackling energy lanced out, striking key Devourer vessels. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The targeted ships began to move erratically, their coordinated swarm tactics dissolving into chaos. "It's working!" Chen's voice came through the comm, filled with excitement. "The weaponized Novium is disrupting their hive mind." Roberts allowed himself a small smile. "Excellent work, Doctor. Now let's press our advantage. All ships, focus fire on their command vessels." The battle raged on, a dizzying dance of destruction against the backdrop of stars. Roberts coordinated the efforts of the diverse fleet with a surgeon's precision. He directed human ships to execute unpredictable maneuvers, keeping the enemy off balance. Sheliak vessels provided covering fire with unerring accuracy, while progenitor ships unleashed technologies that bent space itself. The ancient gateway, silent for millennia, now hummed with power. A joint human Sheliak team worked feverishly at its controls, generating a barrier that prevented Devourer reinforcements from entering the system. Roberts watched with satisfaction as several enemy ships collided with the invisible wall, their efforts to join the battle thwarted. Despite the initial success, Roberts could see the tide of battle slowly turning. The sheer number of Devourer ships was overwhelming. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The Allied fleet, while holding its own, was being pushed back. "We need something more," Roberts muttered, his mind racing. His eyes fell on the gateway, and an idea began to form. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it might be their only chance. He opened a channel to Sirefather and the progenitor leaders. "I have a plan," he said, outlining his daring strategy to use the gateway itself as a weapon. Sirefather's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "The risk is great," the Sheliak leader rumbled, "but the potential reward is greater. The Sheliak Dominion will commit our most advanced ships to protect the gateway during this operation." The progenitor representative, a being of shimmering energy, pulsed in agreement. "We will provide the necessary expertise to modify the gateway's systems. This plan showcases the innovative thinking we hope to see from your species, Admiral Roberts." With the decision made, Roberts set the plan in motion. He dispatched Dr. Chen and Zara to the Gateway Control Station, tasking them with implementing the necessary modifications. Meanwhile, he took personal command of the task force assigned to defend the structure. The space around the gateway became a maelstrom of combat. Roberts's ship danced through the chaos, guns blazing. He used the complex terrain of the ancient structure to his advantage, leading Devourer ships into ambushes or tricking them into colliding with debris. "Admiral," Chen's voice crackled over the comm, "we're encountering resistance in the gateway systems. The power fluctuations are more severe than anticipated." Roberts gritted his teeth as his ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Do whatever it takes, Doctor. We're counting on you." Minutes stretched into hours as the battle raged on. Roberts' task force fought with unbreakable spirit, beating back wave after wave of Devourer attacks. The Allied lines bent but did not break, held together by the iron will of their commander. Just as it seemed they could hold out no longer, Chen's triumphant voice filled the command channel. "Modifications complete. Gateway reconfiguration commencing now." Roberts watched in awe as enemy ships were torn apart by the intense gravitational forces. The distortion field ripped through the Devourer ranks like a scythe through wheat, leaving only debris in its wake. The remaining Devourers, their numbers greatly reduced and their hive mind in disarray, began a hasty retreat. Roberts seized the moment, ordering a coordinated pursuit. "Don't let them regroup," he commanded. "Press our advantage." As the last of the enemy ships fled the system, a cheer went up across the Allied fleet. They had done it. In a seemingly impossible way, they had emerged victorious. But Roberts knew their celebration would be short-lived. Even as damage reports flooded in and medical teams tended to the wounded, long-range sensors painted a grim picture. Multiple Devourer fleets were converging on their position, drawn by the massive Novium signature they had used as bait. Roberts sank into his command chair, exhaustion warring with the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. They had won the battle, but the war was not nearly finished. He keyed his comm, signaling Sirefather and the progenitor leaders. As Roberts made his way to the emergency meeting, his mind raced with possibilities. stand their ground, or launch a counteroffensive. Use the gateway for evacuation or as a launching point for surprise attacks. Each option carried its own risks and potential rewards. One thing was certain: the decisions made in the coming hours would shape the fate of not just their own civilizations, but potentially the entire galaxy. And as the first wave of the new Devourer fleets entered the outer reaches of the system, Roberts knew that time was not on their side. As the door slid shut behind him, Roberts was struck by the gravity of the situation. The room's occupants, Sire Father, the progenitor representatives, and key members of the human contingent all turned to face him, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and tenacity. "We've bought ourselves some time," Roberts began, his voice steady despite the fatigue that threatened to overwhelm him. "But we need to act decisively if we're going to turn this war around." He activated the holographic display at the center of the table, bringing up the latest intelligence gathered by their long-range sensors. The approaching Devourer fleets loomed large, a stark reminder of the immense threat they faced. "We can't win this through attrition," Roberts continued, his eyes scanning the room. "We need to strike at the heart of the enemy." Dr. Chen leaned forward, his eyes bright with excitement despite the dark circles beneath them. "Admiral, I believe Zara and I have made a breakthrough that could help with that." All eyes turned to the human scientist and his Sheliak colleague. Zara's crystalline form shimmered as she spoke, her voice a melodious hum. "We've detected a unique energy signature emanating from a specific region of Devourer-controlled space. We believe it may be their central nexus, the source of their hive-mind coordination." Roberts felt a surge of hope. This could be the opportunity they needed. "Can we reach it?" The progenitor representative, a being of swirling energy, pulsed in affirmation. "We have been developing a new stealth technology based on our understanding of space-time manipulation. It could be adapted to a small vessel, allowing it to traverse Devourer territory undetected." The room erupted into a flurry of discussion as the implications of this revelation sank in. Roberts raised a hand, silencing the chatter. "Then we have our mission, a small strike team using this stealth technology to infiltrate the Devourer nexus and neutralize it." Sire Father clicked his mandibles, a gesture Roberts had come to recognize as one of agreement. "A bold plan, Admiral, but who will lead this mission?" Roberts stood straighter, his decision already made. "I will." "Admiral," one of his staff began, "we can't risk—" The Sheliak leader's massive form seemed to grow even larger as he accepted the responsibility. "The Sheliak Dominion will hold the line, Admiral. You have my word." Over the next few hours, the details of the mission were hammered out. A specialized ship, christened the Shadow Striker, was outfitted with the progenitor stealth technology. Dr. Chen and Zara would accompany Roberts, along with a hand-picked team of human and Sheliak operatives. As the final preparations were made, Roberts found himself standing before the Shadow Striker, its sleek form barely visible even in the bright lights of the hangar bay. Dr. Chen approached, his arms full of equipment. "Last-minute adjustments," the scientist explained, his voice tinged with excitement despite the danger ahead. "Zara and I have been working on refining our Novium-based weapons. We think we can create a payload capable of disrupting the entire nexus." Roberts nodded, impressed once again by the ingenuity of his team. "Good work, Doctor. We'll need every advantage we can get." As they boarded the Shadow Striker, Roberts couldn't help but notice the growing closeness between Chen and Zara. Their interactions were marked by a familiarity that went beyond mere professional courtesy. He filed the observation away, knowing that such bonds could be both a strength and a potential complication. The Shadow Striker slipped out of the hangar, its advanced engines barely a whisper against the backdrop of space. As they cleared the Allied fleet, Roberts took one last look at the gateway and the assembled ships protecting it. The fate of all those lives, of entire civilizations, now rested on the success of their mission. With a silent prayer to whatever forces might be listening, Roberts gave the order to engage the stealth systems. The stars around them seemed to blur and shift as the Shadow Striker vanished from conventional sensors, beginning its perilous journey into the heart of enemy territory. The first few hours of their voyage were tense but uneventful. Roberts divided the crew into shifts, ensuring that someone was always monitoring their surroundings. Dr. Chen and Zara worked tirelessly in the ship's small lab, fine-tuning their weapons and discussing theories in a rapid-fire exchange that few others could follow. It was during the third shift that they encountered their first real test. A Devourer patrol, massive biomechanical ships that dwarfed the Shadow Striker, appeared on their long-range sensors. Roberts quickly ordered all non-essential systems powered down, the crew holding their breath as the patrol passed within a hair's breadth of their position. "Stealth systems holding," reported the sensor officer, her voice barely above a whisper, despite the fact that sound couldn't travel in space. Roberts allowed himself a small sigh of relief, but he knew this was only the beginning. As they pushed deeper into Devourer space, the encounters became more frequent, each one a nerve-wracking game of cat and mouse. The true test of their determination came when they encountered a massive space anomaly, a swirling vortex of energy that threatened to tear the Shadow Striker apart. Roberts' tactical mind worked overtime, calculating trajectories and energy outputs as he guided the ship through the treacherous currents. "Divert power from the forward shields to the structural integrity field," he ordered, his hands flying over the controls. "Helm, on my mark, execute a roll to port and then a sharp dive. We're going to ride the edge of that vortex." The maneuver was risky, pushing the Shadow Striker to its limits, but it worked. They emerged on the other side of the anomaly, the ship's hull groaning from the stress but still intact. As they approached the coordinates of the suspected Devourer nexus, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Roberts peered at the main view screen, his eyes widening at the sight before them. A massive organic space station hung in the void, pulsating with an otherworldly energy. Surrounding it was the densest concentration of Devourer ships they had ever encountered, a living barrier that seemed impenetrable. "My God," Dr. Chen breathed, staring at the readings from his console. "The energy output from that station, it's like nothing we've ever seen." "Dr. Chen, Zara," he called out, an idea forming. "You said your Novium weapons could disrupt Devourer communications. Could we use that to create a distraction?" "Do it," Roberts ordered. "We'll only get one shot at this." As Chen and Zara worked to modify the probe, Roberts briefed the rest of the team on his plan. They would launch the probe, wait for the Devourer ships to react, then make a burn for a specific point on the station's surface. Once there, they would use their personal stealth suits to spacewalk to an entry point. The response was unanimous. They were in this together, to the end. As the modified probe launched, streaking towards the Devourer fleet, Roberts felt a calm settle over him. Whatever happened next, he knew his team had given everything they had. He watched the Devourer ships begin to break formation, confusion spreading through their ranks as the Novium pulse disrupted their hive mind communication. "Now!" Roberts commanded, and the Shadow Striker leapt forward, threading its way through the disorganized Devourer fleet. They approached the surface of the organic station, its pulsating flesh filling their view screen. "Prep for EVA," Roberts ordered, securing his helmet. "Remember, once we're inside, we stick together. We don't know what we're going to find in there, but whatever it is, we face it as one." As the airlock cycled and the team prepared to step out into the void, Roberts took one last look at the Shadow Striker. Their lifeline, their ticket home. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the mission ahead. With a deep breath, he stepped out into space, the bizarre organic surface of the Devourer station looming before him. The future of the stars hung in the balance, and the real challenges were only just beginning. The organic surface pulsed beneath their feet as Roberts and his team made their way across the station's exterior. Their magnetic boots kept them anchored, but the undulating motion was disorienting. "Entry point detected," Zara's melodic voice came through the comms. 30 meters ahead." As they approached, a circular opening irised open in the fleshy surface. Roberts hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. The rest of the team followed, and they found themselves in a dimly lit, organic corridor. The air was thick and humid, filled with an acrid scent that made Roberts' eyes water, even through his helmet's filtration system. Bioluminescent growths pulsed along the walls, casting eerie shadows. "Life signs?" Roberts asked, his hand resting on his weapon. Dr. Chen checked his scanner. Massive energy readings throughout the structure, but nothing I'd classify as individual life forms. It's as if the entire station is one giant organism. They moved deeper into the station, the corridors twisting and branching like arteries. Suddenly, alarms blared, the sound reverberating through the organic walls. The team froze. "We've been detected," Roberts said grimly. "Move fast. We need to find the Nexus core." As they rushed through the corridors, Roberts' mind raced. The original plan had been to plant explosives and destroy the station, but now he saw another possibility, a riskier one, but with potentially greater rewards. "Change of plans," he announced as they ran. "We're going to attempt to reprogram the Nexus." "Reprogram?" Dr. Chen sounded incredulous. "Admiral, with all due respect, we don't have the technology or understanding to—" A chorus of protests erupted from the team, but Roberts silenced them with a raised hand. "This is my decision. I won't ask any of you to take a risk I'm not willing to take myself." Before anyone could argue further, they rounded a corner and came face to face with a group of Devourer drones. The creatures were a horrifying fusion of organic and mechanical parts, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Take cover!" Roberts shouted, diving behind a protruding growth in the wall, the air filled with the sound of weapons fire and the screeching of the drones. As the battle raged, Roberts noticed Dr. Chen and Zara huddled together, frantically working on something. "What are you two doing?" he called out between bursts of return fire. The fight to reach the core was grueling. Wave after wave of drones assaulted them, each group more numerous than the last. Roberts lost track of time, his world narrowing to the rhythm of combat: aim, fire, duck, reload. Finally, they burst into a vast chamber. In the center stood a massive, pulsating structure that could only be the Nexus core. It towered above them, a writhing mass of organic tissue and crystalline formations. "Hold them off," Roberts ordered, gesturing to the entrances they'd come through. "I need time to interface." As the rest of the team set up a defensive perimeter, Chen and Zara approached Roberts with their modified equipment. It was a helmet-like device, filled with wires and glowing with Novium energy. Roberts nodded, his expression grim but determined. "I understand the risk, Doctor. This is our best shot at ending this war." With Chen and Zara's help, he donned the interface device. As he approached the core, tendrils of energy began to reach out towards him, as if the Nexus sensed his presence. Taking a deep breath, Roberts pressed his hands against the core. Instantly, his mind exploded with sensation. It was as if he'd been plunged into an ocean of alien thoughts and memories. The sheer volume of information threatened to drown him. Through the haze of alien consciousness, Roberts dimly heard the sounds of battle. His team was fighting for their lives, buying him the time he needed. He forced himself to focus, to push through the overwhelming flood of data. Gradually, patterns began to emerge. Roberts saw the history of the Devourers unfold before him. He witnessed their origins as a peaceful, symbiotic species, living in harmony with their environment. Then came the cosmic radiation, a twist of cosmic fate that warped their very nature, transforming them into the all-consuming force that now threatened the galaxy. But beneath the corrupted programming, Roberts sensed something else, a flicker of the Devourer's original consciousness, buried deep but not entirely extinguished. He reached out to it, using every ounce of his human empathy and creativity to establish a connection. "Not yet," Zara replied, her eyes fixed on Robert's rigid form. "Look at the Nexus. Something's happening." Indeed, the core had begun to pulse with a new rhythm, its color shifting from a sickly green to a softer, more natural blue. The tendrils of energy connecting Roberts to the Nexus glowed brighter. Inside the interface, Roberts had made contact with the buried Devourer consciousness. It was alien and strange, but he could sense its fundamental desire for connection, for symbiosis rather than consumption. With all his will, he began the process of reawakening this original nature, overwriting the corrupted programming that had driven the Devourers for so long. The station shuddered, the organic walls trembling. The attacking drones suddenly froze, their weapons lowering as confusion spread across their grotesque features. With a final surge of effort, Roberts completed the sequence. He felt the changes ripple outward, spreading through the vast network of the devourer hive mind. Then, mercifully, darkness claimed him. When Roberts regained consciousness, he found himself lying on the floor of the core chamber, his team gathered around him. The interface device had been removed, and Dr. Chen was running a medical scanner over him. Zara's crystalline form shimmered with excitement. "See for yourself, Admiral." Roberts struggled to his feet, leaning on Chen for support. He looked around the chamber and saw the devourer drones standing motionless, their eyes no longer glowing with malevolent purpose. "I've reawakened their original nature," Roberts explained, his voice growing stronger. "They're no longer driven by the need to consume. Instead, they seek symbiosis, cooperation." The implications of what they'd achieved began to sink in. The war that had threatened to consume the galaxy was over, not through destruction, but through understanding and change. "We need to get back to the Shadow Striker," Roberts said, his tactical mind already racing ahead. "We have to spread the word to stop any ongoing battles before there's unnecessary bloodshed." As they made their way back through the now quiet corridors of the station, Roberts couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. The very air seemed different, the organic walls pulsing with a gentler rhythm. They reached the Shadow Striker without incident, the Devourer ships around the station making no move to intercept them. As they prepared for departure, Roberts took one last look at the massive, organic structure that had been the source of so much fear and destruction. Now it represented hope for a new future. The journey back to Allied space was tense but uneventful. As they approached the gateway, Roberts steeled himself for the task ahead. The war might be over, but the real work of peace was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.